This butter chicken pizza recipe is actually 2 meals in one. First, I'm going to show you how to make a delicious butter chicken that you can serve with rice. Then we'll use the leftovers to make a butter chicken pizza with a naan-inspired dough. After that, I'll take a look at some of the political implications of eating in the Bible. This is Hungry Theologian, helping you taste and see that the Lord is good. Start by cutting 1.5 pounds of chicken thighs into bite-sized pieces. Heat a tablespoon of oil over high heat, add the chicken, and season with salt and pepper. I'm using my Blackstone for this because I can get good browning with pretty high heat. You don't have to worry about getting the chicken cooked all the way through because it will simmer in the sauce. We're just getting it browned for flavor at this point. Once the chicken is browned, set it aside while we work on the curry. In a deep skillet, heat another tablespoon of oil over medium heat, then add 4 cloves of garlic minced and 2 tablespoons of grated ginger. Cook until the garlic just starts browning, then add a spice mix of 2 teaspoons garam masala, 1 teaspoon turmeric, 1 teaspoon curry powder, and 1 teaspoon chili powder. Cook while stirring for 30 seconds until it becomes very fragrant, then add the chicken and stir to coat it in the spices. Add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste and cook for another minute, then add 1 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes and reduce the heat to medium-low. Stir in half a cup of heavy cream and 1/4 cup of plain yogurt and simmer uncovered for 12 to 15 minutes until the sauce is thickened slightly. Then stir in 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter and season to taste with salt and pepper. At this point, the butter chicken is ready to go. You can serve this over rice for a nice meal, then bring the leftovers out the next day for some butter chicken pizza. If you've got a family that will go ham on this, then set aside about 1.5 cups before you serve it to make pizza with tomorrow. I always love naan with my butter chicken, so I thought I'd try a naan-inspired dough for the pizza. In a small bowl, combine half a teaspoon of active dry yeast, 1/4 teaspoon of granulated sugar, and 1/4 teaspoon of warm water. Set aside for 5 to 10 minutes until the yeast is foaming. In the bowl of a stand mixer, add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of plain yogurt, the yeast mixture, half a teaspoon of salt, and half a cup of warm milk. Begin mixing on low speed with the dough hook. As it comes together, stop the mixer and press the dough around the bottom of the bowl to pick up any stray flour that's not yet incorporated. Then turn the mixer up to medium speed and knead the dough for 5 to 7 minutes until it's smooth and elastic. You can also mix and knead this dough by hand, it's just easier with a stand mixer. Form the dough into a ball, place it in a bowl, cover with a damp kitchen towel, and leave it in a warm spot to rise for 2 hours. During that time, start preheating your oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit with a pizza stone inside. I use 2 pizza stones when I make pizza, and you'll see why in just a second. While the dough is rising, I'm also going to make a spicy mint chutney to go with the pizza. In a food processor or blender, add 1 cup of fresh mint leaves, 1 cup of fresh cilantro, 2 cloves of garlic, a 1-inch piece of peeled ginger, 1 serrano chili with the seeds, half a teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of water. Process until smooth and add more water if needed for a smooth sauce. To assemble the pizza, generously flour a work surface and coat your ball of dough with flour on both sides. Begin pressing it outward from the middle, leaving a raised ring around the edge for the crust. Add more flour to your work surface as needed and continue pressing out your dough until it's the size of your pizza peel. Generously flour the peel, then transfer the dough to it. Top with about 1.5 cups of butter chicken and sauce, then add a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese along with some freshly grated Parmesan and Romano cheeses. Finish with some thinly sliced red onions and we're good to go. Slide your pizza onto one of the pizza stones. The trick is getting the far end of dough to catch on the stone so you can quickly slide the peel out from underneath. Bake for 6 minutes, then transfer to the other pizza stone. This helps you get a nice bottom surface that approximates a real pizza oven. Bake for another 5 to 7 minutes until the cheese is melted and the crust is browned. I make pizza every Friday for my family, and this is one of my favorite pizzas that I've made in a while. It's really good. If this looks good to you too, go ahead and click the like button. After you take it out, top with some fresh cilantro and a little plain yogurt from a squeeze bottle. If you want to avoid the uneven yogurt topping that I got here, add a little water to the bottle with the yogurt and shake it up. That should give you an even flow. One of the interesting things I started paying attention to a couple years ago is the ways that meals function in the Bible. Meals are found all over the Bible, which makes sense because eating and drinking are a part of everyday life. But as I said before, there's often much more going on when we see a meal in the Bible than just mere sustenance. One writer has said that meals are an area where the micropolitics of daily life are played out. And we can see this dynamic in our own lives. My family recently celebrated my brother's birthday, and a central part of the celebration was a nice steak dinner. In a company I used to work for, potential new hires were often treated to a meal when they came to visit our area to consider moving there. Wined and dined, as the saying goes. And pre-pandemic, I'm sure it was quite common for you to meet someone for lunch or for coffee to get to know them. So meals can have all sorts of functions, and this is just as true in the Bible. For example, I've talked about the relational dynamics at play when Jesus cooks fish for his disciples at the end of John. But eating and drinking aren't just the site of these micropolitics. They can also serve a more explicitly political function in the way that we normally think of that term. The book of 1 Kings opens with David as an old man who's weak and bedridden. Seeing David's weakness as an opportunity for himself, Adonijah, one of David's sons, decides that he will take the throne for himself. So he prepares chariots, horses, and 50 men to run before him, which is exactly what Absalom did in 2 Samuel chapter 15. Then what does he do? He sacrifices sheep, oxen, and fatted cattle, and he throws a feast. And what's really interesting about this feast is who gets invited. Adonijah invites all his brothers, David's other sons, and all the royal officials of Judah. But he doesn't invite the prophet Nathan, Benaiah, or his brother Solomon, who is supposed to be heir to the throne. This feast has an explicitly political motive behind it, to enthrone Adonijah as king rather than Solomon. That's why Solomon and those considered loyal to David weren't invited. And this is a good tip for when you read about feasts in the Bible. Look at who's there, but also look at who's not there. I won't get into all the details of this chapter, but I'll leave a link in the description to Peter Leithart's very readable commentary on 1st and 2nd Kings. In response to Adonijah's coup, Bathsheba and Nathan rouse David to action, and Solomon is anointed as the true king. Adonijah's feast is interrupted by the sounds of celebration and the news that Solomon has been made king. Adonijah's guests leave trembling, and Adonijah throws himself onto the altar in a plea for Solomon's mercy. Paying attention to the dynamics of the feast in this chapter gives us another window into the fraught politics of Israel, as these events both recapitulate Absalom's prior rebellion and foreshadow the decay of the monarchy in the book of Kings. So when you see feasting mentioned in the Bible, take time to consider, why is this feast happening? What are the relational or political implications of this feast? And if you want to see some of the ways that meals function in the ministry of Jesus, then check out this playlist here.